This is the story of Clyde Football Club, when I went to watch them as a kid in Glasgow in the 1970s at Shawfield Stadium.
And it's 1, 2, 3, cheap for the Tony B, and it's 4, 5, 6 with the team of Taylor Tricks, and it's 7, 8, 9 of the really great band. It's
The weeds inside Shawfield thrived on the deserted steps. I stood alone in a stadium built to hold 25,000 people, separated by 50 yards from the nearest fan. Some of the few present may have harboured decades-old memories of the roars that once sang loudly here, but not now. There was no mass of bodies, no fans' life in multitudes. 500 scattered souls was a big crowd. The Liverpool and Celtic legend Kenny Dalglish summed it up as the worst stadium he had ever played in, like playing in a vacuum, he said. That summed up Clyde, the crushing black hole of nothingness. No trophy to be seen in decades, yet we happy few went every week to the void. Us nobodies, in the wind or rain, usually both. But the desire for greatness was not limp among us. Vigorous dreams of success energised the first few matches of the season. But when the results offered no favours, all that we were left with was our soccer pathos and our trousers stuck to our legs by the marriage of wind and rain. Clyde drew most of its support from the nearby town of Rutherglen. The town's bank clerk was a Clyde fanatic. He had no friends. But his teller window was decorated with a thin Clyde scarf, and I asked him if he could steal money from a rich bastard's account and put it in a fellow Clyde sufferer's ledger. An act of charity, really. No, he said, but I have a plan for Clyde. So in a magnificent effort to show us Clyde fans the meaning of ecstasy, he arrived on game day with a tape deck and a megaphone. And suddenly the sprigs of fresh weeds growing on the concrete steps were blasted with the jumped-up bong of a busted megaphone, feeding on the crap tape deck and housed the recording of a large cheering crowd recorded off the television by a cheap microphone held up to the speaker. Blood-curdling screeches of feedback and reverb skewered through the stadium, crunching across the field of play, hitting the vacant seats, rebounding backwards into a clutch of fans in the terracing, ears covered, faces buckled with abject disbelief. What the fuck was that? Our carefully crafted deposit of gloom shattered by the bank clerk's investment against emptiness. A few gathered and booted his boombox to death, this space invader. We went back to the twilight of solitude and watched Clyde lose once again. Shawfield was a man's place, but there was one woman working behind the counter that served hot drinks. Her hair was aflame with reds, rouge busy on her lips, the pearls around her neck clashing with the dull yellow of her cigarette teeth. A few specimens with stains on their pants stood boogle-eyed, eyeing the spout of the tea lady's nipples. Primal urges rolled among the weaker sections of the Clyde species, and they were doomed to die, prematurely helped along by the consumption of the stadium's food supply. On the menu was the Scottish meat pie. When mad cow disease and humans began killing people in Scotland in the 1980s, the meat pie was fingered as the likely source of contamination. Inside its dangerous crust was a magical luminous meat grind, sparkling in the gloom, the spinal cords and brains of the herd, delicious inside this partially hydrogenated death trap. If a rotted brain did not fail you, the clamps on the arteries surely would. And then there was the hot drink. Cue the thick brown fuzz of a drink frighteningly named Bovril. A cup of hot Bovril beef stock resembled something brown and smelled like something brown. It was consumed in large quantities, helping to wash the meat pie into the intestinal maze, lubricating any rapidly growing bowel obstacles. These horrendous double acts of dietary danger knew no greater performers. The Scottish meat pie and the cup of steaming Bovril. As powerful as any pharmaceutical laxative, the antiquated plumbing system at Shawfield is stretched to the limits, disintegrating with a vile ugliness that the dryness of words could in no way do justice to. Fortunately for the stadium plumbing, the pipes had only to run a short distance to the River Clyde, a mere 100 yards away. The Clyde, the great river and vein of Glasgow's shipbuilding history, the inspiration for our club's name. It had become a dark, rusted water, filled with iron filings, amputated ship parts, and meat pie and Bovril deposits sailing down the river on a Saturday afternoon. Some people went fishing in the Clyde, hoping to snare cast-off shoes or wallets from those who had jumped in, those unable to weather the Scottish doom and the shite Fitba.
Oh, Clyde,